Hello, BookTube. Over the years, when I've recommended the Aubrey and Maturin novels of Patrick O'Brian, a series of seafaring adventure fiction set in the Napoleonic era, much like Horatio Hornblower, uh, over the years, when I've recommended those books and people have taken me up on them, read the first one in the series, Master and Commander, uh, the responses have been very similar. People have said, "Well, there's a gigantic naval battle right at a perfect moment in that book," and universally people would say, "All right, well, that really worked. That was amazingly exciting to read." The but was always the same. It was that they felt like Patrick O'Brian dumped them into the deep end of the pool with no help at all. His characters don't talk in 20th century language. They talk in 18th century language. They use the slang, the allusions, the references, everything. And O'Brien does not give you any kind of glossary of that sort of stuff. He gives you an outline of what the ships look like. But even there, he's giving you uh, bare terminology, but then he's throwing you into a narrative in which the characters, almost all of whom are seamen, are working seamen, don't explain anything. They just use that vocabulary. You feel newcomers to that book tend to feel over their head. They tend to feel like they've come in to a book written by an expert for other experts in the middle, and then not being given much help. Most of the time, when you're reading Patrick O'Brian, you're starting with Master and Commander. Most of the time, people persevere, and they are so happy that they do. By the time you get even to the end of Master and Commander, much less the end of Post Captain, the second book, you know the world and you know the lingo, and you don't need to worry about it. You don't need to worry about it anyway, because the series are really about character. They're really about friendship. They have tons of adventure in them, but the universal elements in them will really work. You won't end up needing the vocabulary. And some of you will know that Mark Richardson of Richardson Reads and I are big fans of the series. We're big fans of nautical fiction and nonfiction just in general. We had a series that was called Two If by Sea that was dreamt up on a back road in Vermont. Uh, Part of this is just a love of these stories and these characters. Part of it is also a little bit autobiographical. I'd be willing to bet that in our little corner of BookTube, Mark and I have spent more time on Earth's oceans than anybody else. Norway around all kinds of vessels, have been out in all kinds of weathers, that sort of thing. I've messed around in boats quite a bit. Very, very much different terms, I think. Very much different terms. As I've often said, the captains of the vessels where I was would not have wanted to see his vessels coming. He was largely in law enforcement. Comes as no surprise to any of you. And a lot of the captains that I was dealing with were skirting the shady side of the law. But one way or another, it ended up giving us both a lot of experience for nights when the wind is blowing, or you can smell the salt water even inland, and part of you dreams. Part of you thinks, wouldn't it be great? I don't know about Mark. I will never go to sea again. And that makes those moments when the air here in Boston, for instance, is coming off the water and just smells deep of the ocean. That makes that a little bit wistful. But it going back to this literature is the next best thing. And Mark and I, we both love the Patrick O'Brian series, the Aubrey and Maturin. The reason they're called that is because they're about Captain John Aubrey, who's a big, burly British career naval officer, and Stephen Maturin, a small, wiry Irish naturalist and spy, who strike up the most unlikely friendship in the world in Master and Commander. And that friendship continues through all of the books as they have one adventure after another, and they slowly accrue a large secondary cast of characters that every one of whom is somebody's favorite. And Mark and I both love these books, and I'm sure that he laments, just the way I do, the fact that first book, Master and Commander, can so readily put people off. Newcomers can be put off by that immersion tactic on Patrick O'Brian's part. And to address that fact, Mark and I have decided to do a read-along and to dump you right in the middle. We're going to jump straight to book 4 in the series. We're going to do a read-along of the Mauritius Command for this month. And so we're going to dive in. He's diving in, so am I. You're invited to do the same if you have these books, or if you haven't gotten to them one way or another. And then we will be discussing we'll do discussion videos about the Mauritius Command on, I think he said, Saturday the 29th. Now, Mark has talked about some of these earlier books. I think I have too, but I don't know that I've made individual videos for them. I'll leave some links to some of his videos down below to sort of situate you. And then you are invited to dive right in. As you can tell from the title here, this adventure takes Aubrey and Matron to the other side of the world, to the islands of Mauritius and La Réunion. And that, for those of you who know your natural history, that is going to raise one particular thing. One particular animal is associated with Mauritius and La Réunion, and that animal is the dodo, the giant dodo. The most famous extinct animal in the world was from those islands, along with a couple of other kinds of dodos. But the most famous one, the one you know, the one that looks like a giant dumb turkey, that bird is synonymous with Mauritius, and you can't go 2 feet on the island without seeing some sort of sign or a restaurant or souvenir shop. One way or another, this book, the adventure goes there, and it's a hoot. This is a hoot of a book. So this is by way of an announcement video. Feel free to join us. Feel free to join us. Feel free to read this in the month. I myself would probably suggest that maybe you refresh yourself just a bit on the 3 books that came before it. You don't necessarily have to reread them to do that. If you've already read them, then, you know, I'm sure there are summary videos on YouTube, or maybe they might have separate entries on Patrick O'Brien's website or something like that to sort of give you the scent back. Or if you want to be really adventurous, feel free to dive in with just this book. I think these books are best read in order, unlike many naval adventure series, like, for instance, Horatio Hornblower himself. Wasn't written in order and doesn't need to be read in order, but these books were written in order. Patrick O'Brien very consciously starts the first book with our 2 characters meeting, and first not liking each other and then liking each other. But if I believe that a lot of these novels stand very watertight on their own as standalone novels, it could be that this is one of them. You might want to give it a try. It's a lot of fun. But one way or another, you're going to hear our thoughts on the matter at the end of the month. So, the Mauritius Command. And I don't think that Mark and I will require much in the way of egging from the rest of you to get us to do all the rest of them. I don't think that will require much. I think we'd be probably both of us happy to do it. But anyway, I'm going to leave a link to all those earlier videos of his. And if his announcement video is up before mine, which entirely could happen since, as I've mentioned before, I often forget to upload. I often just make the videos and think, well, wasn't that fun? And then tra-la-la off to Savage some book. When, no, you have to upload. You can't just make the video. You have to upload. But if his video goes up before mine, I'll link to that as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. Could it be that this signals the return of 2 If by Sea? From 2 of BookTube's saltiest booktubers? I certainly wouldn't object. One way or another. I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.